You know, it gets a little hairy because the time and the Prince, that feud was very real.
All right, let's dive into this messy, tangled tale because it's a lot to unpack. We're talking about D'Angelo and Angie Stone, a relationship that's been whispered about in the streets for years, and now, with recent developments, it's all bubbling back to the surface. There's no denying the feud between them was real back in the day, tempers flared, emotions ran high, and the music industry only fanned the flames. But here's the thing. People are dying to know the real tea about D'Angelo, and while Angie's part of that story, life doesn't begin or end with him. It keeps rolling, just like it did before they crossed paths, and just like it will now that she's gone. Still, there's a secret I've recently stumbled upon straight from a credible source that's shed new light on things I didn't even know until lately. And trust me, it's wild. So picture this, D'Angelo, after years of silence, is finally speaking out about his relationship with Angie Stone, which kicked off when he was just 19. 19. Meanwhile, Angie was in her 30s, a seasoned player in the music game. But if that age gap isn't enough to raise eyebrows, consider this. Angie's tragic death in a road accident just happened, and now the timing of D'Angelo opening up feels off. She was the only one who didn't make it out of that crash. Red flags, anyone? Was it really just a freak accident, or is there more lurking beneath the surface? Some are even whispering it could have been a setup, maybe the labels had a hand in it. And with Angie gone, D'Angelo's suddenly ready to spill what really went down all those years ago. How does a teenager end up fathering a child with a woman in her 30s? The streets are buzzing, and we're about to dig into it. Let's set the scene. When Angie Stone met D'Angelo, he was 19, barely out of high school, still wet behind the ears. She, on the other hand, was well into her 30s, established in the music industry with a career already humming along. And here's the kicker. They didn't just date, they had a son together in 1998. That means Angie wasn't just casually seeing a teenager, she was building a whole family with him. What's really going on here? The tea keeps brewing because after they split, word on the street is that Angie's hit, I Wish I Didn't Miss You, was about D'Angelo. Why'd they break up? Allegedly, he cheated. Now, I'm not here to defend infidelity, but let's be real, when you're barely legal and tangled up with someone who's got a decade plus on you, the dynamics are bound to get messy. Here's where it gets personal for me. D'Angelo and I were tight, real friends. That bond was beautiful, but it came with its share of challenges. What do you expect when you mix youth, talent, and an industry that thrives on drama? Back in the day, though, when people talked about their relationship, they didn't zero in on the real issue, the age difference and the power imbalance. Nope, they were too busy dragging Angie for her looks, her dark skin, her plus-size frame. Society couldn't stop clowning her appearance when the actual problem was staring them in the face. She was a grown woman pursuing a teenager. That's the tragedy here. The focus was on the shallow stuff instead of the ethics. D'Angelo was this shy, insecure, insanely gifted kid just stepping into the music world. Angie? She had it all: connections, money, fame, life experience. If that's not a power imbalance, I don't know what is. Before D'Angelo, she'd been married, had a daughter, even had a son with another label mate, Rodney from Funky 4 Plus One. She was a woman with a full life behind her, while D'Angelo was still figuring out who he was. They got together, married briefly, had a daughter, and then life happened. It didn't last. I was only 22 when my own marriage fell apart, so I get how fast things can unravel. But Angie and D'Angelo? That age gap and her established status made it a whole different beast. People called it grooming, and science backs them up. The brain's frontal lobe, the part that handles decision-making and impulse control, doesn't fully develop until 25. At 19, D'Angelo was legally an adult, but mentally still a kid. He was reserved, too, didn't even like the sex symbol image the industry pushed on him later. He once said he gained weight on purpose to shift how female fans saw him. Imagine how vulnerable he was back then, fresh in the game, and Angie allegedly swooped in, taking full advantage. Some argue, well, maybe he liked older women, he was legal after all. Fair point. His daughter Imani's mom, Mara, is older than him too, so maybe there's a pattern. But here's the rub, this kind of thing isn't rare in the music industry. Young artists get mentored by older, established figures, and next thing you know, they're in relationships nobody questions because the industry turns a blind eye. Speak out, and you're either blackballed or paid off to hush up, like Jay-Z allegedly did with Foxy Brown. There's always been chatter about that, a little romantical vibe, alleged of course, but we know what's up. So when folks say Angie was just mentoring D'Angelo, I'm skeptical. This mentorship reeks of manipulation. Word is, an employee from D'Angelo's label sent letters to industry insiders, putting Angie on blast. They claimed she introduced him to substances, allegedly buttering him up before, well, you know. If that's true, it's not just grooming, it's predatory. The letters also called her controlling and hard to work with, which tanked her career. Industry politics? Maybe, but when insiders call out a relationship's weirdness, it's not just gossip, it's a pattern. Angie admitted those letters circulated and hurt her rep, but she didn't blame D'Angelo. She believed he was clueless about the behind-the-scenes moves, pointing the finger at his handlers instead. I buy that. He was young, shy, not pulling strings, his team was. If they saw Angie's influence and stepped in, it hints at how bad things might have gotten. After Angie, D'Angelo's life spiraled hard, addiction, arrests, wild rumors. He got busted allegedly looking for substances, and one arrest had the streets buzzing. He tried soliciting sex from an undercover cop, offering just $40. Some speculated he was after a trans man, though we can't confirm his preferences that night. Point is, the guy from the How Does It Feel video, where he had everyone ready to risk it all, was gone. By then, he was out of shape, unkempt, battling demons. Alcoholism, substance use, dwindling wealth, it was a glow down, tough to witness. Was this trauma from Angie catching up, or the industry's pressure breaking him? We may never know, but now with Angie's passing, he's ready to tell his side. Speaking of her death, let's talk red flags. Angie and her band were in a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter heading to Atlanta after a Mobile, Alabama concert. The van flipped on Interstate 65 and a semi slammed into it. She was the only fatality. How does that happen in a van full of people? It's suspicious, too convenient. The streets are whispering label beef might have played a role. Angie had a history of calling out the industry's shady practices, and we know they don't like loudmouths. After her debut album Black Diamond Sword, she joined J Records under Clive Davis. Drama ensued. Her third album, Diary of a Soul Sister, got sidelined when Alicia Keys dropped Diary of Alicia Keys, and Clive forced a concept change. Angie felt stifled, asked to leave, and they cut her loose in 2005. She signed with Stax Records, dropped The Art of Love and War in 2007, a hit, but felt they didn't promote her right. Same old story, a talented black woman undervalued. Then there's Mary J. Blige. Early in Mary's career, her manager Kurt Woodley asked Angie to mentor her, saying Mary reminded him of Angie. She agreed, but Mary never gave her props, allegedly even took a song Angie recorded with D'Angelo. Shady, right? And Diddy's name pops up too. Angie said he ignored her until, out of the blue, he asked her to pray with him after the 1991 CCNY stampede that killed 9. He was scared, facing threats, and saw the God in her. Some speculate that talk went deeper, maybe incriminating. With Diddy's trial looming in May, he and Clive Davis were tight, so if Angie held secrets, silencing her might have been tempting. In her final years, Angie got vocal about Universal Music Group withholding royalties for decades. Battling a blood infection, she found financial irregularities and fought for her money and legacy. Artists who make noise often pay a price. A 30-year career of label disputes, creative clashes, and financial battles ends in a crash where she's the only casualty. It's giving cover-up vibes. Now, with her gone, the truth spilling out, her relationship with D'Angelo, the industry's dirt, her possible silencing. Was it mentorship or manipulation? Was she blackballed for speaking out? Was her death an accident or something more? The floodgates are open, and the conversation's just getting started. What do you think?